Welcome back to day 10 of 31 monsters in 31 days. I can't believe we're almost a third of the way through the month. Let's find out who we're making today. Today we are making a goblin. All right, let's get started.
While we're sketching out the plan and making the basic blob shape that all the monsters in this series are built off of, I'm going to give you a bit of a history of goblins and why I included them in my monster list. If you want it, I give you a detailed breakdown on how to make the basic blob shape in this video. It's linked in the description. Goblins are small, menacing humanoid monsters that range in stories from mischievous household pests to greedy, evil thieves. Goblins first appear prominently in European folklore around the Middle Ages as little troublemaking sprites that might sneak around your house, pull a few pranks, and maybe steal a child or two. Originally, goblins weren't fixed character monsters, just part of the mix of mischievous fairy-type creatures that evolved from pagan beliefs in nature spirits and household guardians. Over time, writers started to give goblins more fixed personalities and identities. In 1871, George MacDonald, in his novel The Princess and the Goblin, described ugly goblins who lived in caves and greedily mined for gold and silver. J.R.R. Tolkien likely based the goblins in 1937's The Hobbit on the descriptions in MacDonald's book. After the release of The Hobbit, the image of goblins was really cemented in pop culture as nasty, greedy, subterranean-dwelling little guys. Goblins are now a staple character in fantasy media. They're kind of like a go-to monster that's evil enough to be annoying, but small enough that they're not too hard to defeat. Goblins are present in Dungeons & Dragons, Discworld, the Harry Potter series, Spider-Man, Elder Scrolls, the Goosebumps franchise, etc., etc., etc. Goblins are everywhere in media, so I had to include them on my monster list. Here's the dry blob. It's got 4 layers of paper mache on it. If you want to know how I do my paper mache, I've got a video that tells you my paste recipe, the paper I like, all that good stuff. It's linked in the description. My next step is to make our goblin's eyeballs. I'll need those to dry before I can add them to his face. I'm sculpting these with DOS air dry clay. This clay has a lot of fiber and I really recommend it for a project like this. I'll leave a link for this clay and my other supplies in the video description. Here are the eyeballs all dried. I'm going to give them a light sanding with these nail files I like. They'll be in the supply list in the description. Don't forget to protect your lungs while sanding. Now, I want to make these eyeballs red and glittery to represent the goblin's greed for riches. So I'm base coating the eyeballs in red paint. When that's dry, I'm giving them a coat of UV resin, but I'm only partially curing the resin. I'm leaving it a tiny bit tacky so I can use a bit of a makeup sponge to dab on some of these mica powders. I'll leave a link to the mica powders I have in my supply list, but if you don't need a whole bunch, check out what your dollar store has for eyeshadows. It's essentially the same thing, and sometimes you can find something there that will work for a fraction of the price. Anyway, I'm dabbing on my mica powder, curing it under the lamp, and then sealing that in with another coat of fully cured resin. My goblin needs some ears, and lucky for me, I made a set of ears a few days ago that didn't quite work on my creepy clown, but will fit perfectly on this little goblin. Let me show you how I made them. I cut 2 pointy triangular ear shapes out of some cereal box. I cut this little slit into each ear to act as a little dart, then glue and overlap the legs of the dart to give the cardboard some shape. I used some aluminum foil to flesh out the ear. This ear anatomy doesn't make any sense, but this creature isn't real anyways, so don't even worry about it. I covered the foil with some masking tape and then some paper mache, and boom, 2 ears that didn't work for a clown but worked perfectly for my goblin. Now I'm hot gluing the goblin's eyes onto the blob. The ears are well dry by now, so I can trim those a bit and hot glue them onto the sides of the head. I'm paper maching around the ear glue joint. I'm also going to make eyelids now, but first I'm using some wads of paper to build up around the eyes. I just don't want these eyes to look too bulgy or like bug-eyed. I'm making the lower eyelids by backing some glue-covered paper with a bit of glue-soaked paper towel, folding that in half to thicken it up and make a nice edge, and wrapping that under the eyeball. I made this one a bit too long, so I'm just nipping off the extra with some scissors here. The top eyelids are made much the same way as the lower eyelids, except these ones go on the top. So at the beginning of the video, you saw my sketch. I didn't plan on giving this goblin teeth, But at this point, I decided I really wanted them, and I didn't have time to wait for air dry clay to dry, so I just painted the pointy ends of some toothpicks and skewers. I'll use some side cutters to cut them, and then I'm gluing them to our goblin face with some good quality white glue. I'll use my folded paper trick to make a top lip to cover the cut edge of the toothpicks. And now it looks like he's got a bunch of little needle-like teeth poking out. I love how this looks, but I know I'm not gonna love painting around all these little teeth later. However, that's for later me to worry about. Now I just need to make my goblin a little chin with a wad of paper. And then I found this gluey paper ball on my work mat. I think it was a messed up eyelid or something, but I thought it looked enough like a nose that it would make a decent place to start. It was getting pretty late at this point. I don't even really know how to tell you how I made this, except that it came together with glue and paper and midnight chaos. So here's our goblin all dry, and it's time for paint. I know you see a lot of green goblins out there, but I just did Frankenstein's monster yesterday and he had green skin, so I kind of want to do something a bit different. I think I'm going to go with more of a bluish gray color scheme. After masking off the eyes, I'm base coating everything with this blue gray, transitioning to a bit of a darker tone near the bottom. So much for pre-painting all those toothpicks white. Then I'm adding some highlights and lowlights. After letting that dry, I'm doing an all-over gray wash to dirty them up a bit. Now I'm spattering on some brown. I figured if goblins live underground, they should have a bit of dirt on them. Finally, I'm going back and making those teeth white again. To finish them off, I'm cleaning off the eyes with a Q-tip dipped in alcohol and gluing some black felt onto the bottom as a final finishing touch. And here's our finished goblin. Do you like the color choice? How do you feel about all the grittiness and dirtiness I added? Let me know in the comments. I do try to reply to all of them. Thanks so much for watching to the end. If you could hit the like button or even comment a random emoji, I'd so appreciate it. Since I'm a smaller channel, anytime you interact, it really helps me out because it tells YouTube this video is worth watching. Also, feel free to try out the new hype feature YouTube has just launched. That would make my freaking day if you hyped my video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video. You can watch ad-free and sometimes early on my Patreon. And again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.